What was it like growing up in China?
Oh, it's, I don't know how to say it. I grew up pretty, really different, I basically started going to boarding school when I was before I was 5. Because my parents is, so busy, so they just, you always have somebody else or, go to some places. And then when my brother was born, my parents just decided, they just put me in the boarding school, and then I would just go to my grandparents' place. So basically I grew up with my grandparents, my grandmother, boarding school, And
was that your mom's mom?
Yeah.
Because your dad,
Yeah, he was kidnapped. And then the family bought him is on the far south. Is in the Fujian province, is the southern part of China. So I went back there twice. I went there twice to see the family in my life.
Right.
Yeah. So I really don't. The family is treating him pretty well, but it's still, it's different because. But most of my mother's family is all in Beijing. So, yeah. And, I didn't really, I just remember boarding school, not really homesick because really there's no home per se. I'm homesick, probably thinking about missing my grandma. And all the way till Cultural Revolution, 1966. And I think right before 1966, right before I turned 12, and this thing happened. So they're just upside down, everything upside down. So getting crazy.
Was it a lot of activity in terms of upheaval where you were at, where you lived?
The whole country is total turned into chaos.
Wow.
Yeah, there's nothing, no laws, police is gone.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, just people fighting on the street, and different factions.
Right.
Yeah, because when you start this chaos, everybody just go crazy. A lot of people being, put in the really bad place, and there are a lot of suicides.
Really?
So, yeah, I witnessed when I went to middle school. And that's later even, just linger. Hey, Carl.
Good morning, Carl.
I apologize.
It's all right. It's okay. It's pretty bad. There's no school because the boarding school is shut down.
The boarding school is
Shut down because they say that's capitalist way of,
Well, that's my plan. I don't mind.
because we consider it as the privileged kids
right.
go to the boarding school.
Yeah.
So they shut it down.
So were you back with your grandparents then, or was there?
Yeah, I was but basically you have nothing to do. You just wander around the streets.
Really?
Yeah, but there's like 1 or 2 years there's no school.
Wow.
And then I have to go to school near my home. But the thing is, all the school is full, and so I have to find a school in the inner city.
Wow.
That's opened my eyes because I see how inner city people living, the underprivileged people. Because what is the inner city literally? Because Beijing used to have a wall,
Okay.
a city wall. It's not just, Chinese like to build walls.
Right.
Inner city is basically people living in the alleyways, all those kind of a little house, old house, traditional old houses. So mostly like blue collar people, Outer city, outside the wall, mostly the governmental bureaus, organizations, educational institutes. So people are much better off in a way, but you can see that kind of a segregation little thing, and the good schools is outskirts, inner cities, low. But my boarding school actually is a old, I don't know what's the denomination, but it's like a Christian, compound.
Okay.
It's like a,
Don't they have a lot of Presbyterians?
well, because of missionaries, there are a lot, yes. So that's very old, like 18th century, they built this whole complex in there. So I think they use as a school too,
Okay.
So that was after communists took over in 1949, they changed everything, they kicked it. A lot of foreigners basically just fled, but, so they just
So did
keep the place, we just, that's my elementary school.
did they teach you art at all while you're in
Well,
boarding?
yeah, but there's, we have like an art club,
Right.
so the people have kind of special, interests will get together. That influenced me quite a bit. I have two art teachers, one very young, one's older, that kind of influenced me quite a bit. But for me, I have a great aunt, and she was a very good oil painter.
Really?
Yeah, so she influenced me, and
What would she paint?
well, figurative paintings, landscape, because my family, when they were in the Philippines,
Okay.
so they all went to different, they went to schools like either Spanish school or American school, so my family is all in the Philippines until 1949. When communists took over, they wanted people to go back to help to build a new country. Then my mother's whole family going there. But before that, in the war, they were the underground resistance because that was Japanese occupation. So all my family, my grandparents, they are all in the guerrilla.
Really?
Yeah, they were really fighting. They're very famous in Philippines.
Okay.
The Chinese guerrilla group is very famous
Wow.
during the World War II. My mom was still young, but she was part of it. She was like a messenger.
Really?
So they have the thing is, the Chinese are very recognizable. So Japanese will see pale-skinned, people, that's
Right.
Chinese, they're gonna capture them and then kill them.
Right.
Because they know the Chinese hate them
Yeah.
most. Those are the fighters. That's how my family was there, really fighting. And my mom was, so they have this, the whole family just, have to divide it into different parts. So they mix together with other families, they form a new family. So they basically make it small groups. That's how the guerrilla warfare. So each group pretend a family. So like 3 or 4 people. So my mom was with some other people when she was just a teenager. But her job, it was, passing what information to different groups, what they're gonna do. They're gonna blow up the railroad
Right.
track, or they're gonna, attack some of the checkpoints, Japanese checkpoint. So they were really like
That's
fought, and my grandfather was the liaison officer between the Allies, because there's a lot of POWs,
Okay.
American, British, and Australian,
Right.
being captured because when Japanese invaded. So they did some rescue things,
Wow.
and then because my grandfather, spoke Spanish and English,
Right.
and the Cantonese, there are a lot of Chinese, from that region. So from Guangdong province region. So he could, talk to different groups and help. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting.
That's super
So,
interesting.
but before Japanese invasion, both my mother and her sister, my aunt, they were born there. So, they educated. My mom was, played piano, within the piano. My aunt was violin, and then I think my great aunt, which is my grandfather's sister, younger sister, and I think she studied, painting,
Okay.
art, and she did a lot of work. I still have some her old worked images. I don't have the original painting, but I have some images. And when she went back to China, she did a little bit. Her son did quite a bit, so I would just hang out with them, and then they took me to the galleries and museums. So that's really get me into this art thing.
Well, do you remember like the first like medium you used?
Oh, well, at the beginning, basically, color pencil when you were little, right? Sometimes you get a little watercolor. I remember when I was in elementary school, mostly our watercolor, pencil,
Right.
color pencil stuff. I really didn't start doing painting until probably teenager,
Right.
And then don't forget, when I was teenager, is total. There's really no art.
Right.
There's all propaganda. So I just get into this, in charge of school propaganda stuff.
Right.
Big billboard and a lot of things stuff. Mostly like writing big characters. So,
Okay.
yeah, just get the party messages
Right.
passed on, spread out. But you have no choice. You have to do that. So,
Right.
so I use some of my artistic ability to,
Would they allow you to use colors you wanted, or is like,
Well, yeah. There's not really a lot of color.
right?
Mostly black and white, and black
Right.
ink and then red.
Right.
There's not a whole lot painting. I have a mentor. My teacher. We were together, did a lot of stuff with the school,
Right.
Jason area, and sometime we did, we did some big billboard stuff, like propaganda stuff. Once we did a mouse portrait in the
Okay.
school, so I was just assistant because you had to be careful. Something you didn't do right, you're
Yeah.
in trouble. But I'm still doing things, that kind of relate to art. So that's why when they decide to, draft me to be art teacher.
So,
So the-
you wanted to be an architect, right?
Yeah, that was my dream.
So, like, how did that work? Were you able to petition to do that? Or-
No. At the time, you have nothing, So, everything is, of course, the government determine your fate,
Right.
right? So you have no control about any aspect of your life,
Right.
period. Zero control. I remember when I started going back to school again,
Right.
I just basically went to a elementary, finished my last year of elementary school, and in this terrible classroom with dirt floor.
Really?
Yeah, because inner city is totally underdeveloped. Okay, people live in the, those called hutong, which is alleyway. The houses, they have electricity, but there's no running water. There's no bathroom.
So you had to use like a whale, or?
No, they have a spigot in
Okay.
a like alleyway somewhere located. So everybody get buckets and go pick
Fill
up,
it up.
fill it up, and then they have a big container, like a big barrel, but it's made of like a ceramic, really
Okay.
big. They call it shui gong. They put water in there. Every family had that, and then they go to the community outhouse.
Okay.
Each alleyway or few alleyway, it's like a network, and then people will go to outhouse. That's where you meet your neighbors.
So you had to wait a long time for that.
But of course, I was living outside,
Right.
outer city, not the inner city. So I grew up with my grandparents. They're much better. We got a shower and the toilet, everything. But our house, there's nothing, just a hole on the
Right.
on the ground. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's pretty shocking. I went to my friends, classmates' home. I was just like shocked. I said, couldn't believe, because you were taught, You know, communism is like anything like a Bible talking about, you know, everybody's equal. There's no gap between the rich and poor.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's like, what happened to that utopia, right? You know, I mean, why people live like that? I was totally shocked. Of course, you know, we constantly have to go to the countryside. That part of our curriculum, you know. Then you look at the peasants' living condition, I mean, just like there's no food. It's really terrible.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of it's no electricity. Some are deep in the mountains. They don't even know what's going on.
Were you guys allowed to hunt at all, or like that was not allowed, or how'd that work?
What? Nigga, hunting? No.
No.
No. Are you kidding me? No. Well, probably peasants in the.
Like the far out do it, but not if you were in the city.
No. Well, not really, because there's nothing to. It's just city.
Okay,
It's
there's
city
no.
jungle. There's not even the birds. There's birds. Basically, they kill everything.
Wow.
You know, because there's a lot of movement during the 1950s and early 60s. They call it Great Leap Forward. So you basically, they say anything will eat the crops.
Right?
They eliminate it.
Wow.
So like rats and you know, birds and they will just yeah. So there's nothing. So you know, I don't see any squirrels. I don't see any. Well, there's a few birds.
Right.
You know, pigeons and doves because people raise them and that's how like old tradition. We raise.
Okay, because you guys
yeah.
communicating with pigeons.
Well, not really. They just have fun, you know.
Right.
They put a whistle on their tails.
Okay.
So they go, you hear.
Right.
In Beijing City, especially inner city, there are a lot of those. You can see a group of, you know.
That's cool.
Yeah. People have got nothing to do. There's no entertainment. During the Cultural Revolution, everything's banned. There's no music. There's no movies. You know, no music. All music banned, because music considered a Western capitalist. No, they banned everything. So you don't. All of a sudden, Mozart and Beethoven, it all capitalists. You know.
Well, I didn't know it went that far.
Oh, anything old, anything foreign, they all cut it out. So what do you do? You know, Great Cultural Revolution is 10 years officially, from 1966 to 1976. There's nothing. You know, we were just, so I play sports. That's the only way to get out.
Right. What sport did you play?
Oh, I play a lot. I started playing basketball.
Okay.
And then I get into volleyball.
Okay.
And then we do the team handball, which is, in this country, nobody knows. But in Europe and in Asia, it's very popular. It's like a combination of soccer and basketball.
Okay.
So you have a small ball, you dribble, you pass, and you shoot the goal. There's a goalie there. The goal is smaller than soccer. And the field is smaller than soccer field, it's bigger than basketball field. And when you shoot the goal, there's like a semicircle. You cannot step into that circle, semicircle, to shoot. So you basically just fly, jump in there. You make sure you're not touching it before you get your, So that was fun, you know, skate. Every winter, we go to like lakes and ponds and skate and play hockey. You know, the funny thing, because even so we went to middle school. Very soon when the school started, right? The government starts have martial law, so they have military everywhere. So school particularly, so military is in the school. They control the school. So when I went to a middle school, that basically is all our school officials are military, ranking military, some people. So what do? You just military training.
Right.
So yeah, there's nothing really learning anything. I remember my physics, math class, the teacher just keep going back and forth the same chapter just for the whole semester because nobody want to learn. I said, come on, I already know this, right? But we did a lot of military training. And our PE is like we don't throw javelin or shot put, we throw hand grenade.
And you were telling me you were 13 when they first started the military training?
Yeah, well, actually, yeah, because that's the time I start going to middle school. Because we basically waste the entire year. There's no school.
Wow.
Yeah, so, yeah. So basically, I remember my first day of class, everybody stood outside, on the playground. They call it playground. Just stood there for like hours. They don't move. So that's discipline training.
Wow.
The military guys said.
Robert, can I ask you, so then they didn't play music, but they let you play sports like basketball?
Well, you have to.
Western?
Well, yeah, but they say that at least don't pollute your mind, or your spirit. So yeah, they call it, spiritual pollution. So anything's old, but China is, thousands years of history.
Yeah.
No, either feudalist or capitalist, they will put label there. But feudalism is always there. That whole infighting, the Cultural Revolution, basically is feudalistic kind of a power struggle.
Yeah.
But no, they made some theaters, movies. There's 8 model like pieces. So there are 2 ballets, okay? And there's a couple, picking opera, but it's all propaganda. It's praise the party, praise the leader, and so you just like but 10 years you just over just 8 things. You just how can you watch this 8 piece, and the movie is very limited. There's movies, basically, there's nothing. So we don't even know what's going, because government control everything.
Right.
We have no information about what the outside world look like.
That's crazy.
Yeah, only thing we know a little bit outside is we see North Korean movies, some Soviet Union movies, but it had to be old because during the 60s, the relationship turned sour.
Really?
China and there's like a border conflict too in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
We see little Albanian movies
Okay.
and Romanian little bit. Romanians later, Yugoslavians later, but a lot of Albanians because that's our friends. North Korea, Albania. Oh my God! Think about grow up in China is like, what kind of a life is that? It's so boring. People
Right.
are gonna no matter what they say, but we try to find a way to entertain ourselves.
Right.
So play sports. That really helped me to survive that kind of a boredom. It's just terrible.
Then I remember you told me you bought a camera, but it took you a long time to save up to get the camera.
Oh my gosh! So I and become teacher, right? And then, but I always enjoyed, photography.
Right.
So at the time, Chinese make a lot of cameras, but I'm really into a lot of those like old folding cameras, and my friend has those, twin lens reflect because Chinese make those things copy, called a seagull,
Okay.
I still have one in my office. It's not working, so I decided to get a camera, a Chinese-made camera, and so I used it for quite a few years. I'm just not happy,
Right.
It's just a range finder
Right.
camera. So I always want to get a Japanese camera, but they didn't have any because there's no imports. It's basically nothing. Okay, but then I think in the 70s, probably like late 70s, you have to understand when Nixon went to China in 72, right? And so China used to be all closed in, and then Nixon went to China because the U.S. government wanted to end the Vietnam War. So they wanted China to be part of this negotiation process. So that's when Nixon went to China. At the time, I was in the training camp, training school.
Right.
So Nixon's hotel Jason is a block away. So I remember, it's like January, February 1972, we had to get out on the street and shovel the snow and the ice to clear out the road. So, to guarantee the motorcade will be safely or easily to reach
Right.
to the to his hotel, and then but after Nixon went to China, the doors start open a little bit.
Right.
So that is things start happening when you start opening it. You look at the outside, wow, there's something. So of course a lot of imports start coming in.
Right after that?
Yeah, because not only culturally, sports exchange, cultural exchange, there will be, financial kind of a, interaction with
Right.
outside world. Then there's a lot of imported goods come in. China is a big market because it's like billion, some people that they want, they think in the gain.
Oh, tons of gains.
And the Chinese government realized that too. Say, we're gonna get export. We need
Right.
some joint venture with other foreign companies. So that all of a sudden you see Japanese cameras, and all of a sudden, of course, those are, unreachable
Right.
for us. We get my salary convert into U.S. dollar in the 1970s. I started teaching 1972. I get a 30 yen, Chinese, RMB. 30 yen at the time equal, I don't know, probably like $5.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's my monthly salary.
That was your monthly salary.
However, the rent is low,
Right.
the utility is low, the living expenses is not quite as, so I have a low income but low consumption.
Right.
So, but I have to save money because export stuff is expensive. Anything like television set, refrigerator, even a fan, it considered luxurious item.
Wow.
Cameras are like watches. These are all luxurious items. Most people, you save like a couple years to get one. That's
Right.
why, I saved 2 years. I want to get a very basic Japanese camera, Ricoh. And it's just very cheap. See? And I lost my money on the way. Yeah.
Oh.
So I have to another 2 years. Finally, I got my camera. Yeah, it's single lens reflect camera.
Okay.
That's my first single lens reflect camera. But this is really not. I remember the shutter speed setting.
Right.
Is like the highest is like 800.
Really?
Yeah, and then you go to like the shutter is like it's very simple.
Right.
It's film, but I have my little dark room.
Right.
Before I couldn't even afford a enlarger, so I have to borrow my relatives' enlarger for like a couple years. Finally, I decided to get my own enlarger, so I have enlarger, and I process at home and do things. It's hard, but you got to find a way to make it happen.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Sell your stuff?
No, at the time, art, who won't buy art? No, you just basically just your own enjoyment. You just want to do something different because, art. Really, what is art in China at the time? There's no art. Everything's propaganda.
Right.
Because as artists, in order to exhibit your artwork, first you had to be the member of Chinese Artists Association.
Oh.
That is a government.
So they can control everything.
Control body. So when you become that, right, you have to follow the guideline.
Right.
So in order to show your work. So your artwork had to be, first, praise Communist Party, praise our leader, our country, blah, blah, our superiority, whatever. I grew up, they tell you, this is the best country in the world. We didn't know.
Right.
We didn't know any other country.
Right.
North Korea, Albania. Yeah, it's really bad.
You were saying when you were teaching, because that was what you ended up being, was a teacher.
Yeah.
You had to go to school like for 4 years for that too, as well, right? Or
Well, because
it's different.
in the early 70s, I would just 16 out of the middle school, almost going to graduate.
Right.
So I would consider I was lucky because majority of the people who out of middle school, they send to the countryside.
Uh-huh.
At the time, they have the terminology called send down youth. So they send them out to the countryside. They stay there for like as long as 10, 12, 15, some even 20 years, couldn't come back home. So my brother was part of the whole group, So a lot of my people, there are a few people join the military. There are a few people stay in Beijing, work in the factory. So I consider I was lucky because I was drafted to be art teacher. So yeah, it's like a short-term training,
Right.
like a 10-month training. You just like a training camp, you stay there. And after that, you go out there, you start teaching. I started September 1972.
Okay.
That's how I get teaching. But then later, during the late 70s, 80s, they say, no, you guys have to go back to college
Right.
so you can be really qualified to teach.
Right.
So that's one way. While we're still working, we went to college.
Gotcha.
All those people being drafted to be teacher. Because I remember the camp is art teachers, music teachers, and the PE teachers. They drafted. And because at the time you're teaching other things like literature, mathematics, science, you have to have a college degree. We didn't really have degree when we start teaching. We just went to a training camp.
Right.
But because they badly need educators, so we have to just, go there, take the job. Did I teach art? No, mostly teaching politics because I remember there's so many different So whenever there's like very important editorial published in People's Daily, it's government-run newspaper, I basically have to get this piece of paper, talk to my class, 4 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. That's what I did.
Wow.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. And then later, of course, gradually, we start trying to get things going.
Right.
And then when they realized, no, you guys need more training, so we'll have to go to college while we're working.
When did you decide you wanted to move to the States?
I start planning, in the mid-70s. Basically, a couple years after I start teaching. It just, the more you look and the more you see the situation, the more you question, you say, this is not, really the place, if I really want to do something, because I couldn't say the things I wanted to say. You have to think about your safety.
Right.
You don't
Because
want.
you said, I don't remember what the issue was, but you said that you were teaching and they didn't like how it was going.
Oh, a lot of time there's certain things they don't like. A lot of time they don't like anything that if you show your individuality.
Right.
See, like if I, they will take me to the, admin's office. They say, your hair too long, right? Or why you wear jeans? You cannot wear jeans in school teaching.
Right.
Bad influence. Your hair too long, bad influence. And it's ridiculous. I would just ask them. I said, in my hair, length of my hair or affect the quality of my teaching?
Right.
They say no. I say, then don't bother me.
Right.
Of course, they don't like it. I was like I never had a good relationship with administration people. Because, but then you have this kind of a strong kind of a conflict.
Right.
Between, the society and yourself. I just refuse. Sometimes you have to protest in certain way that the Chinese intellectual always do, very subtle.
Right.
So I would just like go to class, wear a torn like jacket with all the patches on my sleeves. People say, you look like homeless. there's not homeless, but people look like like some kind of refugee.
Right.
But I just try to make some kind of statement.
Right.
But you cannot make it too obvious because you have all these thousands years. You learn how the Chinese intellectuals, they always been crushed whenever there's something, because the government hate anybody who can think,
right,
and who can influence.
Right.
Teacher, artists, writers, filmmakers, they're all the influencers.
Right.
So when you do something, you're not following exactly what they wanted, they're going to cut you down. They're going to cut you down.
Wow.
So you have to learn how to smart way to achieve your goal without being caught.
Right.
So, of course, I talked to a lot of my students certain things, and they didn't like it. That's why they said, "Okay, Robert, this year you're going to the labor camp." So I said, "Okay, whatever." So they sent me to labor camp.
Was that when you said that was it? You were out?
No, well, at the time, yeah. Well, a lot of times you just say, "This is not a place,
right,
for anybody." Mm-hmm. But Confucius' idea is always, Confucius is one of the Chinese main philosophers. They will tell you, don't think about what the government do.
Right.
Just mind your own business.
Wow.
Right? So don't be an individual. Just go with the flow. So the old Chinese saying, don't be that tall tree. Because if you're too tall, the tree, they're going to cut you down first.
Wow.
So you want to be the shrubs, just, beneath everybody. So that will make you safe. But, it was not me. Mm-hmm. Not my kind of thing. So I just decided I got to venture out. And, but the thing is, during the 70s, I told the school, I said, we should change our curriculum. I'm teaching arts. I want to talk about, what happening
right,
outside of China. So I say, let's set this course called, modernism in the Western modernism class. So I prepared. I did a lot of the research. I went to a lot of libraries, a lot of the art institutions. So I went to libraries and check out a lot of books. I made a lot of my slides. So I had this whole lecture series about, Western modernism. I started teaching like 78, yeah, 77 or 78, I cannot remember. So it's very popular.
Right.
At the time, they had, like an AV system. So they have like a closed circuit TV. So I have this thing I would teach in class, so everybody who want to watch, you can watch in their classrooms. So it becomes so popular that everybody want to, take the classes. And then, a few years later, in early 80s, mm-hmm, China has this new political movement. There's constantly some political movement. You think about cultural revolutions ended, everything's going to be better. No. And then that movement called anti-spiritual pollution.
Oh, really?
So anything, they will check, anything spiritual pollution, they will cut it. They will say no. So all of a sudden, they took me to the admin office and say, sorry, your class had to be, canceled.
Wow.
I said, why? And they just told me, someone complained that you're showing nude images to our youngsters, to our students. That was their excuse. Uh-huh. So they just shut it down.
Wow.
Yeah. And later, like 2 years later, when everything quieted down, I convinced some of the, administration people say, this is really popular. Why we just, I can adjust some of the content.
Right.
But I want.
All nudes?
Huh?
Was it all nudes?
Yeah. Well, there's, our history, you look at it, there's
right,
definitely a lot, even the Renaissance artwork, were before. Mm-hmm. But, so reinstate the class. But at that time, I already to my end of the time there.
Right.
So yeah, I think they reinstated like 83 or 84. I left there 85. So but I had all my, so I just gave back to there's a younger teacher and art teacher, and at the time we have like 3 art teachers in the school. So I put give him all my stuff and tell him how to continue the class. And of course, I never heard what's going on. Yeah.
And then, how long did it take you? Like, what was the process for you to get? Like, did you need a passport? What was the process for you to make it to?
Well, in China at the time, travel is highly restricted, right? Not only between the cities and the provinces. Like, I was in Beijing, that's capital city, and so they have very strict regulations. If someone from outside Beijing, you have to report. If it's someone visits you, even the family members or relatives, if the durations exceeds 2 weeks, you have to go to the police precinct to report, because everybody's big brothers, sisters always watching. So in every community, they have this like neighborhood committee. They have a whole bunch of people committee people, a lot of retirees. They will watch everything. So they see somebody they don't recognize, they will report. They will knock at your door and say who that person is. We're going to report to the police. So because in Beijing or in China, every family has a ID book, like ID, passport. So they will tell you how many people in this household. Okay.
And you have to carry that around with you?
Well, a lot of times anytime they can knock at your door and say, let me check your ID book. And if somebody is not, if this list who's the household, the head of household, and how many members, families in here. If you only have a parents, right, 2 parents and then 2 kids, all of a sudden you have 5 or 6 people in there. They will say who that is. We may have to detain this. What is business doing in this place?
Right.
Yeah. So basically, you're constantly being watched. Of course, nowadays they have cameras everywhere, so they have facial recognitions.
Well, you knew every camera was on anything that
Oh
was
my
on.
God. And then when they shoot you, and then all of a sudden the information come out, who this, how old you are, what you done, what's your social credit, which means if you spit on your jaywalk, those time your confrontation with other people, they'll lower your credit score. So they recognize you. So your every move is being watched. They're always like that. Before just men.
Right.
Human watch you. Now it's AI watch you.
Right.
And much more efficient. But yeah, that's how. So travel to foreign countries basically is possible.
Right.
Only governmental agencies, whatever business, people involved with those could travel.
Right.
So when I apply my passport, you have to start from very in their districts, police agency. You go to China, Security Bureau, which is like big police headquarters, control the whole Beijing city. And then you have to have a federal, security bureau, check your background, check your family. Say if your family member working for some government bureau,
Right.
then you will be scrutinized more because you may know some information. You may take those information out. So you have to be really patient. There's a lot of red tapes too. You know how bureaucracy in China is just impossible.
Right.
David knows. David used to contract working in China, building different things. And so the red tape, it took me 8 years to get my passport.
Wow.
Well, I'm contacting all universities. the first place I contacted Australia. Actually, I accepted it. One college accept me, say, okay, come here. You know, at the time it was like April. They say, come here, August, our school start, and you know, go to this airport. You know, college have a vehicle to pick you up. Da da da. I didn't even have my passport. Oh, I was so excited. I said, yeah, but I couldn't go.
Really?
Yeah. So, what do you do? And then, and then it took me 2 years to get my visa to come here because I applied student visa. Because I really want to learn what is going on, you know, as contemporary art. So that's 10-year process. So
10 years.
Yeah. So I started 1975, 74, 75-ish, and then I left 85.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Long, but you know, you have just say, there, you know, I'm gonna get out. I have to get out, and then you just keep going.
When you got here, was it a huge shock?
No, I feel like fit right in.
Right?
Yeah. People say, do you miss your family? And I say, I miss my cat.
Right?
Yeah. It just like, you know, you're determined.
Right.
You know you have to start from nothing. You know, you have to do hard work. My language was not good enough to comprehend, you know, lectures. So there's a lot of difficulties, you know. You think about your financial situation, you got to pay your rent, you got to pay your tuition, and you always pay out-state tuition,
Right?
because you're a foreigner. And, but you determine, you just keep going, and, you know, I made it.
Right?
Yeah, but I had to contribute that to how I was raised. You know, all this happening in China. Actually, in comparison, you feel like this is nothing.
Right?
You know, I encountered much more complicated, more harsh condition and situation. This is in comparison, really. No, not that much. So for me, it just, you know, no big deal. So I managed. But only thing is, because they don't accept my credits on my college, I did. So I had to start basically start from freshman again.
Right?
Yeah, because I came here and my purpose was just directly go to graduate program. But no. So that set me back too.
Right?
So I had to do 4-year college, get my bachelor degree, and I stayed in the University of Missouri for my graduate study for 1 year, and then I went to North Carolina, 3 years. So I basically had a 4-year education in China, 8-year education, higher education here too. You know, so 12 years higher education. Whew, that's a lot of schooling, right?
When you were making, because with your art, you do photography,
Yeah,
you do sculpture,
yeah.
painting, and drawing.
Yeah, painting, you know, I always did painting, but I started self-taught sculpture when I was in China.
Right?
Because I just want to explore, I kind of like something like a little bit more physically involved. So I started doing a lot of sculptures while I started doing painting. So when I came here, I want sculpture to be my major emphasis and the painting will be my minor emphasis. But in the university there, I had a little conflict with my professor because at a university, it's a small university. It's one person teaching. So we always have a little argument, debate going on. And then it just happened, there's one professor teaching ceramics. You say, hey, you're from China, you must be interested in, you know, because I did some ceramics, very little in China. And you say, you know, hey, because the sculpture lab and then the ceramic is in the same building. You say, why not you just come here and, you know, visit us and see what is going on. So I went down there and, you know, see how the people are doing. I did a little bit. I said, hey, yeah, I like it, you know. And I really get along with this professor, ceramics professor, pretty well. Because the professors wife was teaching English, was my English teacher. So that just adding layers. So I say, hey, oh, why not? I would just quit my painting. I would just pursue still sculpture as my major emphasis. But at the time, I was still doing drawing.
Right.
So drawing, sculpture, I will, and I start doing ceramics. But I just feel like it doesn't matter what kind of media. I can do what I want and the things. So I always combine them. So I do installation in the university, and I did a lot of installation. There are ceramics, there were drawings, and there are sculpture elements. So they're all together. Yeah. And later on, I have like video, image, photos, drawings, sculptures as installation. So for me, just it worked out. So since that time, I stopped painting. I'm just more concentrated on, more three-dimensional, which is sculpture and ceramics. But when I went to graduate school, I did 1 year ceramics. I did 1 semester ceramics, just for fun, But I concentrated more on the drawing and the sculpture.
And your sculptures kind of have, I don't know, I can't think of the word.
Yeah.
But you'll use an instrument and kind of have it be part like a weapon, so you have the play on that. What were you?
Okay, so what my whole concept, because as artists, you grow up, you try to, you learn a skill, but then you try to have, use your skill to help you to make a body work to make some kind of statement. So there's always concept behind your work, but get a good concept is a hard thing. What really you want to say, right? As a artist basically is a communicator, because you always want to share your images with other people. You want to make some kind of statement. For me, due to my background, so I'm, the Chinese culture is really powerful in its long history. So I'm always fascinated about this yin and yang, the idea about yin and yang. Two opposites elements coexist and there's codependency, but yet they're totally the opposite. But they are one thing, like the circle.
The duality.
The duality, yeah, the contradiction. It really depends on how you look at it. But you look at a lot of things that contain both yin and the yang, and then coexist. So when I look at the human history, it just, for me, look back human history. Art is part of, a significant element of this human civilization, because we have brain. We're our species, much more than just living in reality. We do want to have a fantasy. Art is kind of a fantasy we create. But the fantasy have to have some kind of carry something to make people to look deep into our lives and our world, our planets, whatever, our universe. So I just looking back to human civilization from the very beginning, why we have these things, right? We have beautiful cultures, doesn't matter which country, which region, but yet we have wars, brutalities, people.
Hi, Arthur.
Hi, Arthur.
Hi.
How are you, Arthur?
Okay.
You good?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. So why, we create human, we so capable of creating different things. We're creating beautiful things, but sometimes we use the beautiful things to do ugly things.
Right.
And through art history, through human civilization, through human history, you see that repeated, up to today. So I just try to address that, this duality, the contradiction, and the yin and the yang coexist. So a lot of time I use like a common object, such as instruments, music instruments, farming equipments, furnitures. I will show the duality, like the furnitures, like a chair, piece of chair can be a torture chamber, can be an execution device, right? The instruments, like I say, what is common analogy between, or similarity word, between a violin and a rifle, right? It's you have certain touch, like your chin, touch the stock, I mean, there's so many similarities. So a lot of time I'm making, musical instruments look like a weapon, farming equipment look like a weapon. A lot of those things is in my artwork. And a lot of look like a human body too, like bone structures, rib cages, because I think almost like how we were made, and then reflect how we make things, how we behave. Human will still have animal instincts. All these complexity together. What about yin and yang is how complex phenomenon or whatever existence of, our world can be explained in a very simple yin and yang. So it's very simple but very complex. Simplicity contains complexity. So the yin and yang really is basically in every fabric of our existence, our daily life. So that's how I start getting into that. My background, how I look in the world. I want to pass that on or share with other people. So my work reflect that. So a lot of time I have situation like my installation will have some of the instrument look like some kind of boats. Boats for me, vessels for me is fascinating because people can treat different countries, different treating goods, culture, technology, but then there will be influence like missionaries, go to different countries, change people's belief system, slaveries, they have a boat and moving people from one continent to the other, and the invasions, right? So sometimes they use boats. So I give boats, some part, and then I have other things. And I have video clips about wars, about, it just photos about bones and bullets. These things, I just try to put them together and make people, just provoke the kind of thoughts, question what's going on. So a lot of my work really is big body work at the time. I did that probably like 20 some years, same theme, and just, different images. So.
And now you're doing more drawings, right?
Now, I'm getting older. I used to do large scale stuff, installation, large pieces. I just I don't feel like I have to, it take a lot of energy.
Right.
So I'm kind of getting older, probably getting more calmer. You want to be more, it just almost like you just evolve into different mindsets, different kind of way looking at the world. So I'm more getting into that, nature, human nature, how we similar to, nature. So I'm getting into the vessels and the veins and the nerve system, because our planet, a root system, a very similar tree, any, vegetation, they have a root system, very similar veins. You look at a piece of leaf, you can see the vein, you can see the bone structures, and a lot of brains, because, getting older, you go more aware of your, physical being, physical existence. So you more get into internally. So a lot of my work now is very detailed, very complex, demand a lot of time. But a lot of time I treat it as a very meditative process, because it's just one stroke at a time. Pen and ink, you really cannot, blend it, smear it, cannot erase it. You just have to, calculate it carefully and manage it, one stroke at a time, So I think that suits me well, who I'm now, you know, comparison to before. Before, you're younger, you're much more like a physical involved. You want things to be big, powerful. Now, you know, you want to be more subtle, you know, quieter. But it's still powerful.
Right?
Yeah. You know, we're all in different stage of life. Chapter now.
Right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Robert.
Sure.